Y'all got comfortable shoes, right? Okay, she got the okay. Those are the shoes I had, so you might be careful now. Hey guys, we're here on site at the Texas Tiny Home Project. But what it tells you is if there's a leak. You don't want there to be a leak now, and you forgot to look. You may fail inspection if it's too close by an inch. Like if
You think the house is tiny, it's gonna be tiny price. But guess what? You still have 2.5 bathrooms. So you have a 3-bedroom, 2.5.
Yeah, I'm not gonna let her go too far. Come with me. Come with me. I want you to stay on this flat surface. So y'all, come on, let's go. Can you see me?
Yeah.
Hey guys, we're here on site at the Texas Tiny Home Project, one of the first tiny home courtyard style builds here in Texas, built by the great Andre Berard. He's been so gracious enough to let us come out here and check out his build. So we're here at the foundation stage at the very beginning. So we're gonna just talk about it, kind of look and see what they got going on, and hopefully you can gain some insight from this. I want you to follow me. Follow me. I'll tell you when to stop. So this project is about, I believe we're roughly around 12,000 or 13,000 square feet. We'll find out exactly how much. But, the reason why this is possible is because of the width and the length of this project, especially with this being on a corner lot. They're able to have access from both sides of the property. So they could pick and choose their access point, right? If we were just dealing with a straight vertical lot, you only have one access point from the front of the street. So because they were able to lay this out in either direction, they could build out the houses along that side and then have a side entry that comes in with a shared driveway and just line up projects on the side and just have a middle section where you can enter into the community. And then they got to make sure that there's enough shared community space, because the courtyard style development, the rules around that, dictate that you got to have a communal space. So, this is a very unique situation here in Houston. This is part of the brand new livable places ordinance that they passed. So, we'll see how this goes. But let's come on and just check out kind of what they're doing right now. The process, from the start, as you guys know from taking the course, Equity Builders, you guys know that they start with infrastructure, start with dirt work. One of the first things they did before they even began this process was they started preparing the site. So if you notice, there's different infrastructure inlets in the ground, right? You see a box here that's concrete. That has to do with drainage, right? You see a drainage entry point here on the ground. These are dictated by your civil engineer. So when you're getting your plans drawn up by your architect at the beginning, they're defining what are the requirements for this site to be able to drain off water, or if there's a requirement for water retention, they'll define that as well. That's part of your civil drawings that your civil engineer is going to do. And that's why it's important to understand what are you getting into from the beginning. And that's one of the big things about the new livable places ordinance, is that they reduce some of those requirements on smaller lots. So they made it to where they didn't have to put in enormous, very expensive infrastructure on smaller lots like this. They made it a little bit more affordable, right? So, before you'd have to really put in some serious, detention work where you're actually having to store water underneath these properties. And that could cost you probably upwards of 150, 100, 160 plus thousand to do that on a project. And if you're dealing with a small project, that might not, it might not make it feasible to do that, right? So they've lessened some of those requirements in order for these type of projects to take place. Because what we're doing is, what they're doing is they're gonna sit multiple, dwellings on this property, And every time you disrupt earth and you put a building on it, you remove the ability for rain to be stored in the ground, right? For water to be soaked up from the outside into the ground. Whenever you're putting down foundations like this, so there has to be somewhere for the water to go, for it to not flood everywhere else. So that's kind of what that whole civil drainage and retention stuff is all about, right? You got to account for all that.
More so they tell you how far to dig down.
So they're telling you depth, they're telling you size of inlets. All this stuff is on your civil drawing. So when you see your initial drawings from your civil engineer, they're going to define the size of your boxes, whether it's 24 by 24 inch, the type of grates you need to put down, the type of pipes that are actually connecting these boxes, because these are all connected at certain points, right? Because water from back there needs to be able to drain all the way out to the ditch or to the city drainage system, right?
Oh, so they're connected to get
Right.
to the city drainage system.
That's all this is. It's just different access points.
So many properties this, and you need drainage.
Right. You need, because you don't want water pooling in the back and not getting out. So you got to put it at certain strategic points, and all of it drains at a certain angle to get out.
Yep.
Right. So this is lower than the one back there. Right. And there's the people that are doing the dig for this. So if you're managing your own project, you got to make sure you understand the depths of this and make sure that you're communicating with them. If you're working with a good guy, a good person that knows how to do this stuff, they understand that already. But you just got to make sure you're on top of it, right? To make sure it drains. And all this stuff has to be inspected. You know, the city is going to come out and look at it. So they had to have all this stuff open and dig it up in order for them to pass inspection, right? So the city came out when all this stuff was dug up and open. They looked at it and they said, you're good. Then they can close it up, and then they can start actually putting dirt work down in terms of building pads for each project. But yeah, that's kind of your start. You want to do this at the beginning. You don't really want to leave this towards the end, because this would be a nightmare to try to maneuver and put trucks back here.
Right.
You know, once you got structure. So you want to do this right away. Any questions on that? Good on that.
Real quick.
Yeah.
So, as compared to doing an ordinary project, single family residence, $5 square foot, I'm assuming the process might be a little different.
All this? Would the process be a little different on a single family?
Yeah, for the sewage.
Similar. On a single family, they're gonna give you a drainage plan, right? You can hold it. All right, I have another one. They're gonna give you a drainage plan where it tells you where to put your pipes. Like the project I did on Peterson Street, the engineer, in my opinion, went overkill. They made us put in 8-inch pipes, and we had like 12-inch by 12-inch boxes. I thought that was overkill for residential, but that was what we had to do. So we just put one drainage line on one side and one on the other side, and we ran it out to the ditch. That was the design.
Big black.
Right.
Okay.
So
that was what, if you guys saw the video in the group where we were digging up the trenches, that's what we were putting in, was drainage. Just similar to this. It's just that when you get to a bigger scale, they may tell you your pipes, you have to be 24 inches.
Oh.
Right? Now, if your pipes are 24 inches, this has to be bigger. So everything steps up. Right?
Okay.
But all of it's defined on your civil engineering drawings. Right? So that's important.
Okay.
But that stuff is very simple. You're opening the earth, dropping some pipes. It's not that deep. It's not that serious. It's like, just make sure that it's done the right way for water to flow. It just needs to be at an angle. You just keep it simple, right? And you gotta have inlets. That's pretty much it. Even on residential, they didn't inspect my drainage. They just wanted to see it was there. Because it's pretty straightforward. So when we did our final grading inspection at the end, they just wanted to see that was there. Because, you know, it's just trying to get water in and get it out.
So I know it's a different topic, but my thought process was, similar to how like multifamily homes, after you get to a certain amount of units, you're now in a commercial space. Right. I'm thinking, okay, at a certain point, where does this not is not increasing the size of the pipe not adequate? And I think that goes back to what you were mentioning, storing water under the property.
Yeah. So that's going to be determined by a civil engineer on what all you have to do. But in terms of you may be speaking more to like commercial code, or when you maybe when you get to like bigger infrastructure.
Yeah.
The reason why the livable places ordinance is so awesome is that they made it to where these smaller projects to kind of stay under residential building code, right? So if you stay under 1 to 4 units, you're going to be building under the IRC code, which is like residential building code, right? So what this is it might look like a commercial project because they're doing a bunch of houses, but all they're doing is putting multiple small houses on one big lot, right? So they're getting away with the lower cost of essentially building residential, right? So if you go above 4 units, now you're more so in a commercial space. But they even carved out a section into the livable places ordinance to where I believe it's up to, I think it goes up to 8 units, 8 or 9, one of those, to where even at that point, they're still making some concessions based on the layout and based on certain rules of your property, to where you can still kind of get away with like residential guidelines. You're still, you're still building almost in the commercial space from a lending perspective, but they've made some concessions to make that a lot easier. Right? Okay. So, but you're once again, when you're in the planning phase, your civil engineer is going to dictate the scale at which you need to do that. And if you're building a single family home, you'll be at like 6-inch pipes, 8-inch pipes. And I could have probably went back to the engineer and say, hey, can we drop this down? Like, do we really need to have this much, these pipes this big? But, I could have had that fight, but I was like, I'll just leave it. Because they're the experts anyway. They know what they're doing.
On the topic of infrastructure, is there any special accommodation made for like the electrical?
For infrastructure, because they have electrical everywhere here.
Yeah.
Their poles are right here, so that's also part of what I talk about, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like making sure that you have access to everything.
Yeah, like it's not across the street
Right.
or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The electrical poles right here. They may have had this. So that looks like that's old, so that's not new.
Mm-hmm.
So this stuff is already here. So
Yeah.
that's what they got. They benefited from infrastructure that's already in place. If you go to an area where none of this is here, now you have to drop poles potentially on multiple locations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it could possibly get expensive or just take very long. But everything they need is here. The only real infrastructure they had to put in place was drainage to get the water out. And then obviously they're going to connect these houses to sewer and water. Let's walk a little bit closer here. We're not going to be in these guys, right?
So this is considered a commercial versus residential, right?
No, this is residential.
Okay.
It's still residential because of the livable places ordinance. That whole courtyard style development that they carved out in the ordinance allows us to still be residential. Once this infrastructure is done, right? That's when they came in and started adding dirt to build up their pad or taking dirt away, depending on what your plans say, right? They're building out each pad for each project. And your plans are going to tell you the details of what needs to happen for each building that you're putting down. But this is the first phase. They're dropping they're building out their pad, making sure that it's compressed to a certain amount, for it to not sink down. You don't want your dirt to be sinking down and not be firm. But, most of the lots in Houston are pretty firm, but you got to make sure you don't have loose dirt because you don't want to put a foundation on something that's sinking, right? Or that can shift too much. And the reason why they're digging these trenches is this crew right here is the plumbing crew. So whenever you're doing slab on grade, your plumbing has to go in the concrete. So they have to come in first, right? They got to come in, make sure they lay their pipes, they're digging their trenches to run the pipes. The trenches are also going to be where the concrete drips into the earth. That's where you got the slab on grade. That's what we call footings that are held into the earth so that the house doesn't sit as much. Right? So later on, what you'll see is the concrete crew comes in and they're going to drop rebar into all the trenches. They're going to tie it up, and it's just making a web of infrastructure so that when the concrete pours around it, it's all a solid structure to hold the property. Because houses can shift from time to time, that really helps to just give you a firm foundation.
So, question: does your site survey plans indicate the plumbing, like the direction of the plumbing, or?
It indicates where the pipes are. So toilets, kitchen.
Okay.
So what's kind of different here in Houston is for these small residential projects, most people aren't getting what's called an MEP drawing. Those are mechanical drawings, right? Showing where mechanicals go. Where does your HVAC go? Where does your electrical go? Where does your plumbing go? Right? If you want to be extra safe and spend the extra money, pay for someone to do that. To where there's actually an engineer that will draw the location of everything ahead of time.
Okay.
And what that'll do too is save you from these guys having to figure it out in the field. But they typically just come out, measure where the locations are on the floor plan, and then they're just dropping pipes where it goes. And sometimes they might miss slightly. Right. You see a pipe sticking out the wall too much.
Yeah.
So you just got to make sure that whoever's doing this is super accurate if you don't have those MEP drawings. Right? And I've had situations where they've missed the wall, or the electrician ran a pipe that was supposed to go to the other side of the duplex, but it was only on one side. So, like, obviously they got fired, but those are the mistakes that can happen if you're not paying attention, number one, and if you're not doing a proper job. MEP drawing.
All right.
Mechanical, electrical, plumbing. And they kind of just lay out and plan ahead where all that stuff goes. Because not only do you have to account for it here, so for example, let's say you had electrical in your island, you got to make sure that electrical can be run from maybe the outside of the house under the slab to the island. So you got to make sure there's an electrical conduit going here. Otherwise, you're going to have to now, once the slab's poured, you have to get someone to come and cut the trench just to put electrical. So you don't want to do that. You want to try to plan ahead and make sure you account for everything at this stage before you pour. So this is super, super critical.
Yep.
Obviously, you guys know this is the forms, right? To shape the foundation. So they'll build up the forms, put all the trenches, do the rebar, tie all that, and then when they're ready to pour, the concrete guy will finish closing this up. They'll pour it up and then pull the frames off once they're done. And you can see all the roof system and all that stuff that's underneath there. They got to dig all through that.
Like my wife, you never know.
What you'll notice too on some foundations, if you have like a tub or some sort of, I don't know if they do it. I don't think they do it for toilet. I think tubs, they'll carve out more of an area here and leave like a bucket around it, just so that there's space when the concrete pours, and so they can position their toilets and what have you.
I see because I've noticed that sometimes.
Right.
You see the concrete, you see the white PVC pipe sticking like that.
Yep. And you just got to make sure that what tends to happen too is your concrete guy your plumber will come in, do all this, and then your concrete guy will come and crack these pipes. So you got to make sure that is checked. and make sure none of this stuff is leaking. So they do pressurize it. Your plumber's going to put water in these pipes to make sure that it's pressurized because they got to pass inspection. But what it tells you is if there's a leak. You don't want there to be a leak now, and you forgot to look, and your slab gets poured. Because now you got a leak that you got to go and jackhammer the whole thing out and try to go replace that pipe.
Yeah.
Don't run into that nightmare. That would not be fun.
Good question. I'm looking at the trench right here, and I'm assuming that those orange marks are where they're intended to dig the trenches.
Correct.
So, me personally, I'm kind of OCD with certain stuff. So I come on site and I'm seeing this trench is slightly off. You know, how critical is that trench, like lining up with those marks? How important is that? Is that super critical? Because I'm thinking I'm coming on site telling these guys how to do their jobs when I've never really done physical things.
Right. And what you want to be careful of is not to try to tell them how to do their job, but more so checking that they are doing things properly. So they know what they're doing for the most part, but you just want to look for glaring issues. The reason why that's not a glaring issue is if this is 24 inches wide or it's 26 inches and a half, all that means is there's going to be more concrete here, right? All you should really care about is that placement of the pipe correct to your drawings. So when that pipe drops, like when it's actually coming out vertical, that needs to be in the right exact spot. So if you want to start taking out your measuring tape and seeing, is that 6 inches from the wall, that's what you can check. Because if it's not centered to the pipe, they need to move it or they need to double check. So you just need to make sure when they drop that pipe there's a pipe going there, that it's in the right spot. With the trench not being perfectly square or a little bit wider, that's not going to make a difference, right? If anything, it's just more concrete.
So does the drawings tell you that it's 6 inches apart?
So it'll tell you, it'll tell you the distance. Yeah. And if it's not, then go back to your architect and say, hey, I need more details on like proximity to the edge or whatever. But most of the time, your drawing should have all those details on it. So dirt work, frame, right? One of the first steps that I tell you guys also is your survey is coming out here first, right? Before all this is done, the pins have to be dropped. Indications of where the boundary of your foundation is. So when your dirt is done, your dirt work is done, you're gonna get your surveyor in, but then they come drop with little pins, and that has to be accurate. Because if this is too close to this, you may fail inspection. If it's too close by an inch, like if you're already tight, and the local code says that you can't have windows on the side that's within 3 feet of the next building, and you're in by an inch, they're gonna tell you get rid of all those windows, close the door at the end, like when you're already, you know what I mean, and then they won't check it till later. They'll wait till you get to the end and check it, and they say, okay, yeah, close all that up. Close out.
Wow. Right? Critical stage here.
Right. So you gotta make sure that this is in the right spot.
Right.
They're gonna do their job, but you can check. Like especially when you're just your first project. I was checking everything. I'm like, okay, I don't care what they think. I want to make sure this thing is right.
Right.
And that's how I gained confidence in them and like, okay, they know what they're doing.
Right.
So it's critical. It's critical at this stage. So yeah, pins get dropped. The boundary gets defined. That's how they're framing their stuff off of the pins. They're also, you see those little corner framing. Those are kind of their anchor points of what they're framing off of.
This is pretty much the home.
Yeah. This is the whole footprint of one house.
Yeah. Right.
This is one house. Exactly. And so there are a few stairs here, probably. I think these are gonna be 2 stories. So, this part is living space down here. There's not a garage because with the community, with the courtyard style, you only gotta have 1 parking spot per unit. There's no garage requirement. So they're gonna have parking out here somewhere. And this person is parking. So it makes it possible before you had to have more parking. So if you multiply the parking spots per house, how much it's gonna put? This lot size would work. That's why the ordinance is such a big deal, right? That's why it's allowing this to happen, because of these different changes in the law that they're allowing. You don't need to have two car parking now. It's one now. It opens up more opportunity, more housing, making it ideally more affordable. Is the fact.
Twice the size. All right. What's going on? Y'all doing all right?
Man, I follow you on Instagram. I didn't expect to see you.
What's going on? What's going on?
So we got the developer here. Come just a little bit closer. We got the developer here of the project, Andre Barad, extraordinary developer, building his own project, first tiny home in Texas. Development utilizing the courtyard ordinance and the Louisville Places ordinance. So tell us a little bit about kind of the size and then what you guys are building.
Yeah, so to the millions of people who's watching and listening. It's one of the best lenders developers here on this side of Texas. And it's always a pleasure speaking with you and your love guy, man. Levon and I have been working together for a while, and he's truly an amazing guy. So this is a unique project, 15,510 square feet. 15,510 square feet, and we are building 9 tiny homes here. 9 tiny homes here, 6 2-bedrooms, 2.5 bath, and 3 2-bedrooms, 1.5 bath. Okay, and the unique thing about this is it's the first of its kind, the tiny home courtyard home. What we standing on now is the courtyard, right? 3 houses here. 3 houses here. They're gonna be facing each other. Gated community. If you have kids, they can meet at the courtyard. The great thing that the team and I is gonna do is we're gonna have trees named after our loved ones, right? We're gonna have benches named after our loved ones, and we're gonna put a plaque in those benches stating of the property. So when we're no longer here, the property would be here, and that's the thing that Levon and the team and I are creating. And we're creating opportunity that when we are no longer here, it will sustain and last. So, but I would love to share something that I didn't know that I learned going through permitting. And I think it's very important. When you're the first, you're also the guinea pig. Yeah. Right? Yep. Those stackable duplexes you built.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Straight guinea pig.
Yeah, you gotta learn something.
Right? And the one thing that we knew that we didn't have to have a detention or retention. Right? Because of us not using a space and having more green space than structure space, right? Yep. But we didn't know how much the catch basin was going to cost, right? We have 8 catch basins, right? Yep. 3, and 2. That's 8. I just want to use my fingers, right? 8, yeah. So 8. For drainage. Yeah. 1, 2. So and the pipe in the catch basins are 10 inches in diameter and 20 feet long, right? But the thing that we didn't know was the permit fees that's involved with having 9 structures on the property. And I'm about to shock the world right now, Levon.
Yeah.
There's a permit fee at the city called the driveway fee.
Yeah.
So we have 10 driveway spots. They charge us $6,200 just for the driveway. So all of our permits just for the structure was $15,510.38, give or take. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So that is the one thing I learned is that after you pay Garland, after you pay Nate Home, after you pay the structure engineer, after you pay the civil engineer, right? You think you're done. After you pay the permit runner, if you have one, you think you're done. But the city said, "Where's mine?" Yeah. Say with me, "Where's mine?"
Gonna get theirs.
Right. And so we spent $19,000 just on permits. Now we didn't budget for that, right? And here's another thing, Levon, I want to share with the millions of people is you think the house is tiny, it's gonna be tiny price. Yeah. But guess what? You still have 2.5 bathrooms. So if you have a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom, 2,000 square foot home, you're using less pipes, right? But they still gonna charge you. It's not the same, yeah, but similar to the 2.5 bathroom. When it comes to electrical, Antonio come and said, man, these houses are tiny. I said, yes, hence the tiny homes, right? But if he charged me based on square footage, he's not going to make any money. So now it's a matter of us negotiating based on the price that he gives us for 1,600 square feet and the price that he gives us for 1,000. So keep in mind that the difference between plumbing, HVAC, it's not going to be as expensive, but it's not going to be real cheap either.
Yeah.
And those are the things that I have learned with starting the tiny home project.
Yeah, it doesn't scale down. So you know, that's one of the things you got to keep in mind when you're doing multiple projects, right? Like everybody wants to do multiple homes, but now all your fees are multiplied, all your costs are multiplied, materials, holding costs, everything gets multiplied.
Yeah.
So definitely keep that in mind, that just because it's tiny doesn't necessarily mean your costs are going to be tiny, right?
Yeah.
So
I'd like to add this, Levon. So we built a 1,600 square foot home. So our lumber package for that was $31,548, right? If you had to guess, how much you think our lumber package for this 1,000 square foot home?
how much for just one?
No, just one. So the 1,600 square foot home was $31,000.
Right.
How much we spend on the lumber package for just one home for this one? Huh? 30,000? 30?
I say 25.
25? 21,654.32. So it's really only $10,000 off. So then we begin to comb through and say, okay, what can we do to bring this down? Yeah. But then you have to be careful because you start messing with the integrity of the property. So we like to use Tech Shield for our roof decking. So we like, okay, we remove the Tech Shield. How much do we save? We only save $400. So it's not worth it. Let's fit the Tech Shield back, right? Then we realize that majority of our costs come from the treated lumber, right? So you have to be mindful. If you're in a flood zone, it's a lot of treated lumber that you have to, and it's more expensive, right? So in the flood zone, treated lumber, not in the flood zone, not treated lumber.
And those treated lumber is that green wood that's treated to last, throughout the elements, right? You don't want any wood that's contacting with the ground or that could be contacted with water, like in a flood zone. The bottom structure can't be regular wood. That'll rot out immediately. Yeah. That's why we use treated wood for, especially in a flood zone, for mainly that bottom portion of your house.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, awesome, man. I'm excited for what you guys are doing here. You guys, like you said, you're the guinea pig. Yeah. Everybody's watching. Yeah. To see the outcome of this before everybody jumps in. You know, everybody doesn't want to take the first step, but being a pioneer, hey, he's gonna benefit from being a pioneer. It might be tough going through this process, but they're gonna, drive up the area, and I'm sure he's got more land he's gonna benefit from in the future when they sell, get these comps. So, and what you guys have you guys pre-sold?
Yeah, they are on the market, and we have been having showings. I've been directing them to the larger homes. But
okay, so these, I'm sure these will sell. This is gonna be, a model for Houston to see, what could be done in terms of affordable housing. So, I definitely think it'll be a successful project. And we'll be watching, man. We'll be following it along.
And one last thing is, it's very easy to jump into it and say, I'm gonna do all of them at one time. Yeah. Please. Let me tell you, when you do that, it's a lot of pressure on you, a lot of pressure on your investors, the pocketbook and everything. Take it slow. So we're building 2, selling 2. Building 2, exactly, right?
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, because now it's no pressure. We have the funds to build these 2 and do what we need to do, and really enjoy the process and share. But man, it's nothing like pressure when people are hounding on you if you don't follow through on your word. And in this market right now that we're in, we have to be mindful of the product we build, who else is building the product, and how long it's going to take. This is not 2022 anymore, to where you can just put a picture up and you got 10 offers. And you remember those days?
And then there's a line.
Yeah.
Not that anymore.
Yeah. So Levon, thank you for what you do for the community, for the neighborhood. You and your lovely wife, Mrs. Woods, behind the camera behind. Yeah. And thank you for your commitment to excellence and your quality of work. Thank you for saying yes to real estate. See you and the millions of people who's watching and listening.
Yes.
At the top.
At the top.
Thank you, brother.
Appreciate it.
I got a question for you. Real quick.
So, when you were going through that process and you're trying to find ways to save on costs, what was your thought process in terms of like the material that you're going to use to build? Being from a third world country, we use a lot of cinder blocks and stuff. We don't really use a lot of wood. So, what was your thought process, and did you have any ideas in terms of using different materials as opposed to traditional lumber?
Yeah. No, great question. No. I know the 3D printing is coming out, and that's the Vanessa Cole and her team is doing that right now. But no, it's pretty much just using wood and figuring out how to save money elsewhere, right? On maybe with the plumber, he can cut us $500 since we're going to do multiple projects together, right? We save money on HVAC because of how small the house is. So you're looking at about $4,000 for HVAC, right? 3-ton. So certain things we knew that we spent more on lumber, but as we continue, we was gonna save money on those things. Yeah.
And just to speak to that point, for example, my family is originally from the Bahamas, right? In Miami, for example, there's code and local guidelines that make you build to hurricane standard. So you have to build with cinder block and then wood in the inside and things like that, right? Your windows have to be hurricane grade windows. We don't have those codes here. So anywhere you build, you definitely got to make sure that not only are you building to local code, but you're dealing with an architect that understands and structural engineer that understands local code. That's why buying plans on the internet doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because you still got to take those to someone locally that understands the environment.
Right.
Because every place you go in the country, there's different weather requirements, there's different soil. All that stuff is different, and the engineers in that area know what to do for that area. So it depends on where you're building, your cost can go up as well. So you got to make sure you pay attention to that as well.
Great question.
Great question. But like he said, I love that point that he made, right? About in phase developers, what do? They build their communities in sections. They're not building the entire thing at once.
Right.
So that's just strategic to go and just build a portion and sell them off, and now you got comps, right? But the person that comes late, the price is up and stuff.
Yeah.
Plus that's why you want to be the first.
Right.
Because if you pay $200, $250, whatever it is, these people may end up paying $275. Now your equity just bumped $75. That's what happened to even us. Like when we bought our first home, we bought in a new development, and the next ones increase our value automatically, right? So you definitely, if you're buying in a new development, make sure you're first or one of the first. But this is the rebar here. Zoom down a little bit, you see it? Rebar here that they're going to be throwing in there. Pay attention to your rebar. In your foundation structural plan, your structural plans, it's going to tell you the fixture. These are not the same size. This may be a 2. This may be a 5. Right? Pay attention to that. That's gonna dictate cost as well. A 5 rebar is more than a 2 or a 3, right?
So why would you need a small one versus a
It's just more stable?
strength?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And your engineer is going to define what size goes where.
Okay.
I've had foundation guys ask me, so what rebar? I'm like, bro, we got to look at the plan.
Right.
So you got to make sure you guys understand how to read plans, and you got to read it too, and you got to understand. It'll say on the plan, number 3. Let's see a pound. Very simple.
Right.
It'll tell you.
I've even heard some people say, even for like ADUs that, even though small ADUs, possibly slightly more.
But that's why what you try to do is you try to group bills together and try to benefit some savings that way too. Because if you're doing multiple, now you can negotiate a little bit better, right? To where even with your lumber prices, try to negotiate with them, with your trades, and tell them like, hey, we're not just doing 1, we're doing 6. Give me a better deal, right? So definitely try to go.
Question, is that Oh, sorry. Vapor barrier that they're putting over the dirt here.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's exactly what that is.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
So they're gonna wrap the dirt that's gonna be underneath the foundation. The concrete's gonna pour on that.
Right. Okay.
To keep us a capillary barrier. That's a barrier of moisture between the foundation and the earth, because water goes underneath.
Yeah.
Your house. The ground is soaking up water all the time. And you don't want that getting into the house. So definitely make sure that that's there. Once I said, all that stuff is on your plan. It'll tell you the thickness of that, everything. And you have different foundations. So they chose to go with slab on grade. So the decision this is what I want to talk about. The decision that you need to make is going to be based on your soil report. Your soil report is going to tell you what is possible, right? So you can ask your structural engineer, okay, what foundation options do I have? And if they tell you you can only do this, then you can only do one thing, right? But you got slab on grade, then you got pier and beam, meaning they would actually, instead of doing all these trenches here with the footings, they would just drill holes and pour the concrete in them.
That was Peterson Street.
Peterson Street, we did holes, and then we had one footing that went all the way around. We had footings underneath the garage. So the design that I picked was way expensive. It's like, sometimes you gotta rein that in a bit. I could have reined that in a bit. Yeah. Learned that after the fact, obviously. I definitely wouldn't do that type of foundation again, because we combined like multiple systems in one. Footings, piers, all that. And it was like 14 feet deep. You could do just a slab without the footings, and just what they call a post-tension slab. So they put rods in it, and they tighten the rods after it, and it's just 4 inches of concrete. That's the cheapest you can build. It's still, structurally sound, but what's more structurally sound? Something with piers 14 feet in the ground, something with 30-inch deep footings, or 4 inches of concrete. But you got to make that call, right? Right. What is your cost? Yeah. And some people will go with that. That's a decision I have to make on my next one. I'm debating on going with just the post tension, because we're not in a flood zone. We're solid ground. Right. We'll see. Right. Or maybe I do a little variation of it, where I do maybe smaller footings and then the post tension the same cost. So that stuff, pay attention to that on your structural engineering drawing, and it's okay to go back to your engineer and say, hey, have a discussion. What can we do here? What will be cheaper? What have you. But always keeping in mind, don't lose the quality of your project. Because if you're building something, you don't want people calling you back. You don't want lawsuits later. This stuff you're going to be liable for this stuff, right? It's not just come in, make a ton of money and bounce. You're actually on the hook, right? So you got to keep that in mind. Yeah, that's that, man. It's pretty simple at this stage. You just gotta pay attention and make sure the details are right. They're gonna come in once this is done and get this inspected for that, and then they'll let it cure for a little while, maybe a week or two. Then they're gonna start going vertical with stick, start framing it up, and that's when it starts becoming real for me, man. Is when I start seeing those sticks go up. It starts to really come to light, and you really start to feel the hard work paying off. But there's so much that goes into this before you even get here. This is the part people see. Right. But you want to do all the work ahead of time. When you come out here, this is easy. You can do this in your sleep. You just send orders to the site. Make sure you guys are here. If you don't want to be here, make sure someone else is here to receive orders. Placation of stuff is put in the right spot. Little silly things will happen, like if you're not monitoring your job site, the delivery guy will drop your stuff right in the middle of the driveway. It's like, well, bro, how are we gonna move it? Right. It's right in the driveway. So it's like, little logistic stuff like that. You gotta stay on top.
Yeah, it was like, what was his timeline from like conceptualization to here?
I believe it took them a little bit longer because this was the first one. I think they've been working on this for over a year, the pre-development on this. But it's just because I think, The ordinance passed in November of last year,
That's right.
2023.
Yeah.
So they probably started working on it right around then. So we're already past November 2024. So it's been over a year since they were planning this. And I think it's mainly because it's the first one. Now that it's gone through the city, you know, see kind of what the strategy is here. Hopefully the next ones will be quicker. And I've already seen some come from our architect that has other communities that are already past inspection and come out of the city. So you're going to see more of these start popping up. And the lot that, if you guys want to join me, we can go to the lot that I have right now, and we're going to do the same thing over there, but we're probably going to do duplexes, right? So we can drive over there. You guys can check out, get a feel for that.
Okay.
We kind of got halted on that because of the area that's over there, but
Is this in a flood zone?
this is a flood zone. Fifth Ward, all this is flood zone. Yeah. So they're gonna have to account for that. But yeah, this is it, guys. And you gotta be here day in and day out. Make sure you're on top of your stuff. When you see those guys leaving their projects, you don't got money to just, at least I don't, just be letting stuff slide.
Right.
Like, I see projects out here, they just drop wood, they just drop stuff and nobody's watching. Like,
No.
I don't know how they do that. You know, even for me, like I would have this perimeter all
I was
up.
gonna ask that too.
Yeah. I'm sure he may do. I mean, at this point, he doesn't have anything out here that's valuable right now. Like for somebody to come steal pre-cut wood, they're not really gonna do much with that.
Yeah.
And if they steal it, that's maybe $50 worth of stuff.
Get your
Like, it's
camera
really-
system out here too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and you know, for me, I put up my cameras. I have cameras on every pole.
Yep.
And I just fence it off. And that's most likely sufficient. And then obviously, you know, you got they're probably gonna have to clean up this whole perimeter too. That's one of the challenges too with building on next to like these other houses. You know, a lot of times they think you're taking their land, but it's like, man, I'm adding value to your property. I'm taking down this nonsense here and putting something nice up that's going to be presentable, right? So hopefully you got to communicate that with them. Make sure you have a survey to show them so they know you're not stealing from them.
Right.
Had a lady come out and she was like, hey, you know, my fence was over here. I'm like, ma'am, the pins are right here. If you want to go and measure, we can go measure. But they watch it like a hawk. But that'll be something you have to deal with. But try to get to know the neighbors too, because they'll look out for you too. Like I've had, you know, once they get down and bring the temperature down a bit.
Right.
I'm like, you know, try to befriend them, and they'll probably watch your project for you and keep an eye out. You know, give them your number, let them know if there's any issues, if these guys are being too noisy or whatever. You know, I tell them especially we have older people, I'll tell them, make sure we don't start construction until like after like 8 or so.
Right.
Because they're trying to get rest. So just keep those things in mind.
So are these tiny homes going on bricks? Are they? Do you know?
So I'd have to look at the plans and see exactly what they're doing.
Okay.
They may be building this here and then building up off of it. Okay. I don't know exactly what they're gonna do.
I see.
But yeah, it'll flood build up higher. And they may be where this is already a little bit high. You can see they raised it a little bit. Yeah. So I'd have to look at the plan. That's where your elevation certificate comes in. Tell you the height. The surveyor is going to measure the height of the street. It's going to measure the height of your lot and tell you all those details. So big time to understand. All right. Sure. And if you guys want, we can shoot over to the next project. And then if you guys want, also, what time is it?
10:08.
Okay, so I'm gonna head over to Al's project around 11. Okay. So if you guys want to ride over there, we can kind of go over there around 10, 10:45ish, 10:30ish, head that way. Just to check out his part. I'm excited to see his duplex. So he's rocking and rolling. He's already getting ready to close up the wall. So on Monday. And that could be you guys. Just put like one step at a time, one step at a time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You'll get there. And it's, and it's just step by step. And that's kind of what it's about. It's like along the way, if you need help, if something comes up, let me know. We can address the problems and the situations. But if you follow these things and you know what's ahead, you can avoid all these problems.
Right.
This is the stuff, like when I first started, I didn't know what was next. Like I was at this stage and I was like,
You was in deep with it, yeah.
Like, what do we do next? So I'm calling around trying to figure, okay, well, I know we got to get an inspection, but I don't know when. So I'm calling the city, calling the people, like, okay, well, and then I'm talking to these guys. So that was stressful. So being able to have somebody just tell you, don't worry about it. This is what you do next. This is what you do after that. Think about this ahead of time. That's what I think is hopefully valuable for you guys. All right?
This land was probably what, 150,000? Maybe.
Yeah, that's what we should have asked him. How much he paid for it? I don't know how much he paid. Because I think they got it early. See, if you got it early, then you were good. But like now, a lot of people are starting to see this, and then they're starting to jack up prices. Right. But what's gonna have to happen, and what we're gonna do too, is start marketing direct to sellers. So we're gonna start sending mailers and marketing material to the actual owner, and just making them offers and not really going off the market.
I think it's nice. I'm ready to get started.
I know.
I'm so anxious, man, and excited about this.
We'll get there.
Equity Builders.